this episode. Welcome to another episode of Fit Talk and Motivation presented by MTMJFITNESS. This is episode 33 of the podcast, y'all. It's been a long 8 months of grinding on the podcast. This is the final episode of season 1. I just want y'all to know how I really appreciate everyone who took the time out to support the podcast and kind of listen to me as I grew. And I want you to understand that today's episode is for you, for everyone, the YouTube subscribers, the Spotify listeners, the Apple Podcast listeners, the Google Podcast listeners, even folks that I don't know that probably had an opportunity to listen to this podcast, man. This has been one of the best decisions I've made, and I look forward to season 2 and doing even greater things. Look, like I say, man, support me. Over the next month or two, I want you to go back if you didn't get an opportunity and listen to each episode to the YouTube. Make sure you comment, like, and subscribe to the YouTube. You know why? Because to me, grow this podcast even bigger. So when we go into season 2, we don't have no issues, man. You know, look, support is easy, man, but you know, we all love each other, man, when we do what we supposed to do to help one another. You know, that's the key. I'm just here to motivate, give you a little bit of fitness inspiration, a little grind inspiration, and whatnot. We coming back from vacation, baby. So, hey, look, I'm happy. I feel better. I'm refreshed. And, you know, let's get this podcast started off right. Let's get into it. So, first topic at hand. The expectation should not take away from the hard work, right? So, when I was thinking of that first topic that I wanted to talk about, you know, like, when you put in that hard work, you should never lose sight of that hard work. You should expect yourself to continue to grind. So even in those periods of like fall off or fall back, you're gonna be able to look back at the hard work that you put in, right? And you should always expect that of yourself, no matter what level of fitness you are in. I'm just saying, and that also applies to life. I know, like, as a married man, you know, we are expected to take care of the bills, take care of home, work, and also be a provider, also be a lover, and also be a father. But sometimes we forget about working hard to make sure we are okay. And shoot, with me, I think I've talked about this a couple of times on the podcast recently. Just mental health, understanding that even if you decide for a second that you're going to put yourself first, your family's going to be okay, as long as you trust, you know, the hard work that you put in. You know what I mean? So I want to stick to that. You know what I mean? And then going into the next topic, you know, should you be mad at Mariataylor for taking advantage of the moment? The moment is the BLM. You know what I mean? Like, I've heard a lot over the last few weeks about just Rachel Nichols and Mariataylor, and I want to address a few things. I don't think I did a good enough job addressing that topic because I didn't really give an opinion based in episode 32. I more so just read verbatim of what I saw in the story. But my personal opinion on the situation is I'm not mad at Rachel Nichols for feeling that way. I think it was a bigger picture to that situation. You know, like they say, I believe Rachel Nichols knew what she was doing while the mic or video or whatever it was that recorded that conversation she was having with someone. But at the end of the day, it was a private conversation. I think a lot of times we, especially black people, man, we gossip a lot. We talk about people, sometimes knowingly and sometimes unknowingly. But we have those same conversations that she had as far as about black people, about white people. So, like, don't get it twisted, man. I think sometimes now, especially in the age we living in, you got your George Floyd, you got the police brutality, you got system racism, you got systematic oppression where folks are really not really giving black people their just due. But at the same token, I think because of that, everyone's sensitivity is heightened, so they forget about just people working hard and earning their spot. You feel me? I think in that situation, you kind of gotta look at it, man. Like, you gotta look at it from every angle. And when you sit back and you look at it from every angle, right? And I'm not damning her for wanting to get as much money. How did this stuff leak, right? You got to understand the purpose and the message behind the situation. And that's not for me to judge. What I would say is I think confidentiality is important. Rachel should have been okay. She should have had her opportunity to speak to whoever she was speaking to and not have to worry about her conversation being leaked. And to be honest with you, man, you know, if I was her, man, it's a possibility I would want not to work for ESPN, because I wouldn't want to trust anyone. Same with Maria. Maria should have that same issue. Like, you know, my salary is a problem now, while, you know, I'm just trying to get a good contract that's favorable to me for my hard work. So I look at those situations, and I mean, look, Maria want to get $8 million. If that's the case, good, get your money, honey. But I think we also got to stop for a second, because with me, when I started this podcast, you know, everything I've created in the last 5 to 6 years of my own, whether it's a Run with Mike, whether it's M the Motivated J Fitness, whether it's this podcast, whether it's me becoming a personal trainer, I always wanted to find ways to better myself where I wasn't dependent on someone else paying me, or dependent consistently on someone's hours. So my goal behind all this is building a business and a platform for me that, one, I can profit off of, and one that I can gain. And I think the end game is everyone's hustle. They have to want to hustle for themselves. And if working for an employer is a way of hustling for you, then okay. If being your own personal business owner and being able to control your own narrative is for you, then that's okay. But you can't be mad at how people get their money and how people want to make their money. But you also got to understand, when you put in a lot of work, you know, can't nobody stop that. And that leads me into the next topic. What type of hustler am I? Like I said, this is episode 33, and again, I want to stop and make sure you subscribe to the podcast. And the reason I want you to subscribe to the podcast, because the more people that subscribe to the podcast and then you share this podcast, it helps advertisers to recognize this podcast. I have to also you got to understand, when you're advertising something to somebody, they want to be able to get to the masses. I'm not trying to trend. I'm not looking for no trending moment or nothing like that. But to be honest with you, you know, I've heard over the last few weeks that the podcast is really doing good and people really like what they see. So if that's the case, then we should be able to make a little bit of money off this podcast, right? So help me out by subscribing, sharing, and liking and commenting on the podcast. YouTube subscribers and YouTube supporters. Spotify, Google, Apple, please do the same thing, man. Make sure you either follow on Spotify, make sure you subscribe on Apple. The more subscription, and don't just subscribe on Apple, make sure you review the podcast. Give me your honest opinion. Don't just say something because you think I'm your friend. I want you to be honest with me, because when you're being honest with me, I can make sure I'm putting out the right content that suits you. I sit back sometimes and I view everyone's content and I'm like, okay, is this for me or is this not for me? So I know you do the same, so just comment and say that. But what type of hustler I am, you know, I've been hustling for a while, and in every situation I've took my knocks and I've took my bruises, but you know, like I was explaining to my wife while we was having a conversation yesterday, in every situation, good or bad, I always knew I had to trust what I was doing. You feel me? Whether it's me asking for a raise, I put the work in to get that raise. Whether it's me taking a job, that job had to make sense long term versus just financially. You got to look at every angle of the employer. You got to look at every angle of the situation. You got to see if it works for you. And if it works for you, then you take it. If it doesn't, you got to look long term. Because just like when you're buying a car, you're getting a credit card. Just because you're making a certain amount of money in that moment doesn't mean 3 to 4 years from now you're going to be making that same profitability. So you got to really gauge that when you're doing any type of hustler. So the hustler I am is I'm going to go get it regardless. I look at it like this: whether I'm working one job getting it or whether I'm working 3, I'm going to get it regardless. And I think the mentality of every man should be about getting it. And if you're not, I don't know what to say. I'm not going to talk about you, but me and you, we can't relate. I'm just going to say it like that. Me and you, we just can't relate. So, going off of Mariataylor and Rachel Nichols, you know, I think with anybody, man, you should just be rewarded for your hard work and dedication, not your skin color, white or black. I think now, man, with, like I was saying earlier, I think we've got to a point now with the Black Lives Matter movement that we focus so much on the racism part of it, and folks don't trust their hard work. With me, you know, I've had many conversations with many people over the years about what I deserve, right? And who really knows, right? You know, if you spend 100, 200, 300 grand on your education, that you should be making at least 600,000 a year, right? Because you want to double what you've invested into your education. Whereas me, I didn't go to college, right? So I can't determine that. I can't base my mentality off of those educational pieces. What I would say is education is important, right? I would say this to any black man, any black female, any kid, anybody who's watching this podcast. If I promoted it your way and you decided that episode 33 you wanted to watch, I'm gonna tell you now, man, just trust your hard work, right? And I say that emotionally, and I hope you can see it and feel it in my eye and hear it through the airwaves. Trust your hard work, man, because look, with the hard work, it's gonna carry you, man. If you a lazy fuck, and I'm a curse, if you lazy as fuck, it's gonna show, right? I think sometimes, man, people go into certain situations with privilege, and I think Black Lives Matter has created a privilege. Like, it's a privilege to be black. It's a privilege to go to work. It's a privilege to wake up every day, right? It's a privilege. God gave us that avenue, right? So you gotta thank him for it, man, but not being selfish, right? And not feel like woe is me, right? I think I said this to somebody a few weeks ago. As a black person, all we want to do is the opportunity, and also given the chance and get the tools to be successful. Don't give me the opportunity and then take the tools away and still think I'm supposed to perform the same job a white person would. That's exactly, now that's what the Black Lives Matter should be about. You create the opportunities, give the person the tools, sit back and watch them to be successful. As a white person that's in the same position, but the difference is the white person gets all the tools and all the opportunities while the black person doesn't. And I think that's unfair. That's the part that I think is unfair. And as I'm moving into like a more corporate space where I'm dealing with folks that aren't like my color, you see some of those situations, man. You also have to have the awareness and the mental capability to understand what you're getting yourself into. And if it doesn't look good, don't move in that direction. But you still gotta trust your hard work. I talked about ESPN's role in the leaked audio of Rachel Nichols, and they said how it was a former employee and she was reprimanded, or he or she was reprimanded. My question would be is, does ESPN play a role in that? And what role could they have control of the narrative? Or are they looking to build their ratings, right? Because now, while you leak the video, right? I look at it, you leak the video. Next thing you know, Rachel Nichols puts out this half-cocked apology, you know, which I don't feel like she should have had to do. Like, why are you apologizing for something you said in private that somebody pushed a button and put it out there? I mean, you can be mad at Rachel, but look, can you be mad at her for saying, man, I worked hard for my position and I don't want to lose it, especially if I know how hard, I mean, all the roadblocks you put in place from keeping me from getting the gig? No, you shouldn't be mad at her for feeling that way. And then, like, you know, we want to talk about building consistency consistency through your transformation. Man, look. You know, when I started that, when I did that keto diet 3 years ago, right, I went into it with, you know, I just wanted to be a little bit more healthier, right? After doing my research with the keto diet, I said, man, oh man, this is something that I want to try, man. I want to see what I can do with it. Fast forward 60 days, 50 pounds lost. You saw the good and bad, but you also saw the importance of the 3 phases of fitness. And of course there's more, but these are 3 key points that I decided to bring up on this podcast, episode 33, the final episode of season 1 of the podcast. You have to make sure your nutrition is on point, whether you're on keto diet, whether you're pulling back on carbs, X, Y, and Z. You have to do some sort of working out, some sort of fitness activity, man, because like, it's one thing to eat healthy, right, and lose all this weight, but like if you weigh a lot, man, that's excess fat. You know, there is some nutrition that will essentially help you in making that weight loss and muscle building collective combination versus just losing a whole bunch of weight and then being weak as fuck, right? So you want to work out, you want to get your nutrition together, and you want to sleep well. The sleep allows all the hard work that you've put in your nutrition and working out to actually show itself, and you feel better, right? Sleep helps with your mental health. When you're sleeping good, you feel good, right? That's just the thing. And then I want to talk about Wilder. I think last podcast I talked about the disrespectful way that he put that bench press out, where I kept saying on the podcast that he did 175. So here's the correction. His 1 rep max was 310 pounds. Why do he need to show people that he can halfway lift 310 pounds? How about perfect each level of weight progression on the bench before you get on video looking like you done lost your mind? That makes more sense to me. So that's why I had a problem with it. I thought it set the narrative, because you do have fitness geeks. A fitness geek is a person who follows every fitness influencer, and they think every single thing. They think that the fitness influencer can do no wrong. Meanwhile, the fitness influencer knows that he's just taking advantage of the moment. I think in that situation, that's what Wilder was doing. And I felt that part was disrespectful to the art of working out. So, don't be that guy. So look, as we end this podcast, man, I want to end this with some motivation, man. After season 1, I look back on it over the last 8 months, and I'm just so proud of everything I've done. And I want to just break it down real quick. And this is some motivation, but it's just so, I just want to give you an idea of the things that I've done. Like, I've added a light, a new audio system, new mic stand. Going into season 2, you're going to see some things different. I might get a new headphone. I now have 2 cameras, right? I'm looking at one for my YouTube subscribers. Make sure you subscribe. And I'm looking at another one for my YouTube subscribers. Make sure you subscribe. I done upgraded the audio system, right? So it's coming at you a little bit better, a little bit different. And like I said, I really appreciate the support over the last few years, because I've really done a great job working on this podcast, y'all. This is my baby. This is my baby. Thank you so freaking much for listening to the last 33 episodes of this podcast, y'all. I am your motivator. I am your personal trainer. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. I'm out. Peace.